Welcome everyone, and thank you for attending our Intro Excel webinar. My name is Matthew Hollivis, and here's my name, my email address. Don't hesitate to take my email address down. If you've got questions on this webinar or even any other webinars you attend or trainings you do with Pillars, please don't hesitate to reach out. We always appreciate the opportunity to work with you in SEO, and so want to be a resource for you. Really quickly, my background, if you're walking into all of this going, well, I'm not necessarily a finance accounting major, don't worry about it. We'll get you where you need to be. And even if you are, we'll still help build your skills. My initial background was classical piano. So if I can get there, you can get there. I went to university, had a scholarship to study classical piano, and studied piano, and promised my father I'd be able to make a living, so I did accounting as well, and did the CPA exam, and did transaction advisory work for Arthur Andersen after college. I went on, when Arthur Andersen went away, we'll put it that way, they went under, I went back to business school, did my MBA at Wharton, and came out and did my associate years over at Bank of America and my VP years over at Jefferies prior to founding Pillars about 8 years or so ago. So that's big picture of my background, and really excited to be working with you here today as well. So you've got some files from us, and none of them are password protected, which makes the logistics here easier. And the first file that I want to start looking at with you is called PWS Excel Basics 1. And if you're walking into this webinar going, I'm an Excel guru, all right, you're an Excel guru. This is taking a step back and saying, for people that are newer to Excel and need to get better, let's work on some shortcuts, work on basic formula constructions, and these are going to be the tools that we use moving forward as financial analysts. So once you're in your basics, part 1, really this kind of walks us through everything we need to do, but we're going to do it together here. Number 1, I do want you to be aware of, if I need to navigate from workbook page to workbook page, control page up and control page down, and I'm going to control page up to the navigation page here. And the idea here is, if I want to go from workbook page to workbook page, navigate around in Excel, I don't want to use my mouse. A mouse inherently isn't bad. There's a time and a place for it, and I use it with certain things. Certainly, as I'm doing a lot of work in PowerPoint, a mouse is really useful. But in Excel, using our keyboard ends up being not only faster, but more importantly, more, I guess, more accurate, right? And at the end of the day, no one cares how quick you are at doing something if you're not accurate. Accuracy trumps everything. So we're going to jump in here on our navigation page, and it really starts walking us through what to do here. It says, start at John and use the arrow keys to move clockwise. All right, and I'm just using my up arrow, right arrow, down arrow, no big deal, right? Now, we use our arrow keys to navigate around in Excel rather than point and click. But the other thing is, we can also use the control key as well. So control and right arrow. Control acts like an accelerator key in Excel, so I can jump from different blocks of data. If you've ever seen a workbook page, do you see how and you see an Excel workbook, the little column 1 is narrow, and you see a 1, a 2, a 3, etc. The little column that's narrow is called a navigation column, and I can control arrow down and jump to different parts of my workbook page. So in a financial model, I'd probably set up my workbook page, and I'd have, in this little narrow column, navigation column, I'd put the different headings for different parts of the model. Assumptions, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. And this way, if I want to jump down to different parts of the model and everything's on one workbook page, I head over to my navigation column, the little narrow column A, and I jump down to different sections of the model. So Control and your arrow keys, really, really powerful. Control is your accelerator key, lets you jump from different blocks of data. Next, it says move one screen up or down. So essentially here, page down, page up. Obviously, that's helpful here as well. It says move one worksheet right or left. We were talking about this already. Control page down, control page up. So control page up, down lets us navigate. Some of you with some laptops like the HPs, for example, might need to use function control up and down. So that could be the case with your laptop. As we're going along, of course, here most importantly, if you've got questions, just chime right in. Unmute yourself, ask questions. That's the point of us doing this live, so you can ask your questions.
Excuse me, Matthew.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine. Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. I was trying to find the file of Excel. I saw that there were some files, but they say, for example, one says like shortcuts, then one says solutions and template. Which one specifically should I download from there?
You should have this file, Excel Basics Part 1.
Excel Basics.
If you don't have
it's
this,
at the bottom of the screen.
you can have it. Perfect.
I'm here. It says Webinar 2 Materials, Introduction to Excel and Modeling. And then it gives me a bunch of options, but there's none that says webinar, maybe on webinar materials. Fine. No,
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the one. It's the last. It's the very last file.
Okay, there we go. Sorry for the interruption. Thank you.
Absolutely. No. If you had the issue, someone else likely did as well, and that would be insanity to sit here and just listen and not have the file. And we confirmed everything with SEO last week, but you know, issues happen at times. Maybe we made a mistake or something, you know, but we're in good shape. So wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. I thought it was a hardcore Excel question you had for me. All right. So moving on next, it says move to the beginning of the row. It says start at Jim and use the home key. So if I hit the home key, this is actually really, really helpful. Rather than me arrow keying all the way over left to get to the beginning of a row, just use the home key, and that's really quickly going to get me all the way over to column A. Down here, number 6, control home. If I'm over here in Mike,
excuse
or
me,
anywhere, and I hit yep.
I'm not seeing the home key, and I'm on a PC and I'm hitting like what I thought was the home key, and that's not working.
Yep. On the PC, depends on your makeup of your PC, perfect. But if you look on your computer here, on the top row, usually it will say on the top row, on the far right, it says delete, then insert, then end, and then you'll see the home key right up in that top row. But it literally says HOME. What type of laptop do you have?
I have a Dell, and it goes from
Dell.
delete. Yeah, it goes from delete, insert, print screen to F12.
Okay.
Go look towards the right. On my keyboard, I have a Dell too. It's insert, delete, page up, page down, and then home. It's next to the end button. Top right, far right.
All right, I got it.
Sweet. I love collaboration, and I love it starting right here. So thank you so much. I don't know every laptop in the world, so really, really appreciate your help. And that's exactly what you guys need to do. I really, I enjoy teaching SEO because people chime in. If everyone's going to be quiet the whole time and not ask questions, I worry you don't get what you need out of it. So keep asking them. Wonderful. All right, so now you know where your home key is. Obviously, then we can do control home. And control home takes me all the way up to A1 in my workbook page. So If I want to get around quickly, I don't have to just use my arrow key, arrow up. I can use the control key as an accelerator key. I can hit the home key, and that takes me all the way over to the far left, over to column A. I can hit control home to go to A1. I can hit control end. If I hit control end, check it out. My colleague, who some of you may have trained with, actually, I think he ran a session on Tuesday, Alok, he decided to put his last name in our workbook page down here. And the point of this is, while control home takes me all the way up to A1, control end takes me to the far right-hand corner of my workbook. And it's kind of good to understand where is all the data. Sometimes there's data in our workbook page that's off screen that I'm not even aware of. Maybe I was working on a file and I made some notes to myself way off in column V and send you the file, and you're not aware that the information is there. Control home, control end lets you kind of see the parameters of your workbook. So I'll control home again, and I'm going to arrow key down. We did our control end. Big picture, navigation. So use your arrow keys, not your mouse. Use control and your arrow keys as an accelerator key. And then use home to get to your column A really quick, go left, and use control home and control end to really scope out the breadth of your workbook page. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Do you have some macros so that the keys like go to the MacBook keyboards? Because a lot of the MacBook functionality involves command.
Yep. I don't, unfortunately. The issue here is every Mac is slightly different. I can send over, post to this seminar, what I will do is I will send over to my contacts here at SEO. I'll send them a Mac Excel shortcut sheet. And in general, that should map and should be okay. But kind of each Mac is slightly different. So depending on what Mac you have, the shortcuts end up being different. Whereas PCs, they're much more uniform. If you have a Mac, okay, number one, you can do in general the things that we're doing. Just the shortcuts you're not going to be getting. Going into finance is a PC world. It just is what it is. Who asked me that question about the Mac? What's your name, sir?
Jaime.
Hey, Hyman. If I ask you, work in an interview, and I say to you, so, hey, what type of laptop do you have? What do you answer?
PC.
Perfect. Very, very important. I actually have clients that will ask that because they're like, hey, if you get a Mac, the marketing interviews are down the hall. Like, we need people that are here and they're serious to play. Not like, oh, what's this whole finance thing about? Now, Macs are perfectly great machines. I've got nothing wrong against them. I'm just saying that's the perception that's out there. But just be aware that PC is kind of the preferred machine for shortcuts and everything. So, all right, I'm going to control page down to the selection workbook page. I'm going to arrow down here, number one, and it says start at 10, then use shift right arrows to select the entire row. So shift, and here I go, right arrow. This is actually really, really important because my ability to select lots of information means that I can copy it, means that I can paste it, means that I can format it all in a uniform manner and work really efficiently. As we get into financial modeling, what you'll see is we're going to build one column, check that column, select the projected columns, and then copyright, for example. Next, it says start at Laura, then use shift control right arrow, shift control right, boom. Lets me jump to the end and select the information through Sam. So I can individually select shift, right arrow, right arrow, right arrow through Sam, or immediately shift control, right arrow, and select it all at once. Next, it says start at Julie, then use shift spacebar to highlight row 15. So, all right, shift spacebar. So no two ways about it. Got to know these nuts and bolts shortcuts. It's going to make our lives easier. Conversely, not only do we need to know rows, we've got to know columns. So control spacebar. And if I want to select multiple rows, I can start at Thomas, shift, arrow down 1, and then keep holding shift, hit the space bar, and boom, I've got both rows selected here, row 23 and 4. If I want to select the entire workbook page here, then it says start at Nick, then use Control and A to highlight the entire worksheet. And all right, I can select the entire workbook page, and then I can start to copy, format, etc.
Hey, Matthew.
Next. Yep.
It's Mark. Some of the, someone mentioned that they can't hear you. Is that the case for everyone or just one person? Can you guys confirm that you can hear well?
I can hear well.
I can hear.
I can hear Matt.
I can hear.
I can hear.
Perfect. Please continue, Matthew. I think it's just a, personal case. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, no, perfect, and thank you for chiming in. If technology is not perfect, but we make the best of this, and the good news here is SEO is brilliant about this because they're recording this. So if you run into any issues now, come back, do the recording. The other thing is, I'm going to be very honest with you if I can share something personally. The way that I learn something, I see something the first time, frankly, and I'm scratching my head. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I see something the second time, and it starts to click. When I do something a third time, for me personally, boom, that's when I've got it, and then it never leaves me. Like, I'm in good shape. So everyone learns differently. Hey, if you're the person who can do this once and you're good to go, but I'm a huge advocate of, as you're learning things, repeat. Repetition is your base level of learning things, and through repetition, you become more comfortable with it, and you're more familiar. As you're more familiar, you connect the dots, you develop the memory for it, and things really synthesize, I find. So for whatever it's worth, I think the recordings that SEO is doing of these webinars is really, really important and really helpful. You're not going out on Saturday nights. No one is, right? So use these recordings. So, all right, chime in if you need anything. We're going to control page down to the copy paste workbook. All right, it says first things first. Number 1, I'm going to arrow key over to Albert. And it says start at Albert, then use Control C to copy. Control C, we get the dancing ants. I'm going to arrow key down. And if I just want to copy paste once, Control C and enter. There we go, we copy paste. Next, I'm going to arrow key down here. It says I want to copy paste Nicole. Now, if I just wanted to copy paste once, Control C and enter. But I want to copy paste multiple times, Control C. I'm going to arrow key down, and I'm going to, oops, excuse me here, fat fingers, Control V, and Control V, Control V. If I want to copy paste multiple times, that's what I use Control V for. To get rid of my dancing ants, I have to hit Escape. All right. Next, we can copy and we can paste.
Hey Matthew, I have a question.
Yep.
Why would we Control V multiple different times instead of just like highlighting each empty cell and then just Control V in once?
Yep, you can do that as well. I can go left, I can go right, and we all get to the same spot. So you could do that as well. Perfect.
Okay, I didn't know if it would be like, if that would like mess formulas up or something like that.
No, that would be fine. Just
Okay.
straight up a copy paste, no worries whatsoever. So the question essentially from our friend here is, can't I just Control C on Nicole, arrow key down like this, and just hit enter? Boom. And I just want you to know Control C, Control V, because If I've got to jump all over the place, copy pasting information in different parts of the workbook, for example, or different cells that are adjacent to each other, then I need my Control D. All right, let's keep going. Start at Carmine, then use Control X to cut. Go to cell I-17 and then use Enter to paste. So Control X and arrow key down to I-17 and Enter. All right, so I can move information as well. You might be modeling along and get everything put together in the 2021 forecast year and then realize, oh my goodness, I need that in the 22 forecast year. You don't have to delete it and redo it. You'll highlight the information, Control X, and you'll move it. When we use X, we're moving the data, we're moving the formulas, we're moving the formatting, everything is getting moved. All right, next, it says here, go to cell I-21, here we are, I'll arrow key over, and it says use Control R to copy right. So here I've got a 25, great, but if I Control R, this copies right. Control R, again, copies formulas, formats, everything, copies it over right. Looks at what's left and takes it right. All right. Conversely, here it says start at row 50, or start at the 50, and use Shift right arrow to highlight the next 3 cells. Notice, if I just want to copy over once, I can Control R. But if I want to take that 50 and bring it over several cells, I've got to start the 50, highlight, and Control R. So Shift right arrow key over and then Control R. Control R, if this is new to you, is going to revolutionize the way you use Excel. All right. Couple more here. Copy down. I'm going to look at this and say, all right, Control D. I can copy down to 75. Conversely, on my 100 here, I can Shift, arrow key down a few here, and Control D as well. So, you're having trouble sleeping at night. Now I've got an exercise for you. Start walking through all your Excel shortcuts. 5 minutes, 10 minutes in, you'll start to drift to sleep, I promise you. But, good review. You can choose a different type every night when you go to bed. Navigation, selection, copy, paste. All right. Control page down here. Next. We're going to check out our paste special. So, paste special allows us to do all sorts of different things here. We can choose to paste formulas and formats and just the actual values themselves. We can use paste special to shave decimals off of numbers, divide by 1,000, for example, or multiply by 1,000, convert from thousands to millions, for example, as we're thinking about numbers. Many, many practical applications. I can copy paste comments, as you'll see. So it says start at 10, then use Control C to copy. All right, Control C on my 10, and notice here, my 10, it's a 3 and a 7. I don't want it to say equals 3 plus 7. I just want the value. So I'm going to arrow key over here, and Alt activates my ribbons in Excel. H, V, and S. Alt H, V, S. I'm going to arrow key down, and here I go. Select value. So Alt H, V, S. If you're one of these people that somehow know your legacy Excel shortcuts. Now, I don't know why you would know your legacy Excel shortcuts, but definitely there's someone out there who's like, oh, mommy and daddy started me in the 90s with my Excel, and I know all my, or, you know, right? I know all my legacy Excel shortcuts from, you know, maybe from 2002 or the late 90s or something like this. The idea is these old Excel shortcuts work. You just have to know the full shortcut. The ribbons won't help you. So I'm an advocate of learn the latest and greatest Excel shortcuts. And so Alt-HVS gets us into paste special. All right, let's keep going. One more time on my 20, I'm going to Control C, arrow key over, and Alt-HVS. And notice here, do you see how the little V is underlined? I'll use my mouse to show you. Well, I can just hit V and boom, I've copy pasted. And again, I've copy pasted that value. What I'm copying is 10 and 10, and I'm just copying the value. I just want the 20.
Matthew, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had a question. Could you also use Alt ES in order to access the paste special?
Absolutely. We know whose mommy and daddy started him at around 5 years old.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the
like
shortcut that I grew up with. That's all right. They start them young in your family. I respect and appreciate that. Yep. Every morning, you probably sat down, had your oatmeal with your mom and dad, and sat there with the laptop, and they said, okay, let's get some shortcuts in. It's important. So yep, you just got to know the full Alt-ES. So I don't teach it. My colleagues keep saying to me, no, you got to teach the latest and greatest. So we're going to focus on the latest and greatest here. All right, next, it says start at 100, Control C. And notice the 100, it's bold, it's underlined, it's right. We're going to copy the format. And I'm going to arrow over to the 200, Alt-HVS, and here we go. We want the format. That's the T. All right, and enter. So you look at this, and we're doing this on one cell. You kind of probably like, who cares, right? But this is huge if I'm selecting data across the workbook page to get everything formatted at once. All right, I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to arrow key down. One more time, paste special. Now we've got 3 decimals even. Control C. I'll arrow key over to the 400. Alt-HVS. And I'm going to paste the format. I hit my T and enter. I'll hit escape. And we've got a couple more of these. All right, it says start at 6, then use Control C to copy, go to the cell immediately. We're going to do a paste special. We just want the formula. All right, so we don't want any of the formatting here, just the formula. So Control C, arrow key over, Alt-HVS, and here we go, formula. And notice that's just hit the F. Boom. That gives me the equals 1 plus 2 plus 3. There's my 6 without the formatting. I'll hit escape. We're going to do it one more time. Practice makes perfect. For the 18, Control C, arrow key over, and Alt-HVS. And here we go one more time, F for formula. All right, ladies and gentlemen, questions so far?
Yeah, I have one. I'm
Yep.
having trouble using the Alt function, like on the MacBook. Someone said it was Option and Command together, but like it's not giving me the option like after you press it. Like, you know, like after you press Alt, like you have HV and all the other keys, and that's not pulling up for me.
Yeah. So these shortcuts are very, very specific though to PCs. So I'd have to get you a Mac. I'd have to get you a Mac shortcut sheet, and it would have to be specific to your Mac. Does anyone else have this question? Does anyone else have an answer to the question?
I think I was able
I
to.
know the answer first.
Oh, go ahead. You got it, man.
Oh wait, sorry,
You
man.
good?
I think instead of using the letters, I'm using like I press Alt Command and then HSV, and it's giving me like the options, all formulas, values, formats. I guess you can try that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. Last but not least, I'm going to Control page down. All right. Just some really quick nuts and bolts formatting and things to be aware of here. Control 1, useful to know on a PC. Control 1 opens up my format box, and I can choose, right, numbers, alignment, font, and if I hit Tab, this lets me jump in and start navigating along, and I can use my arrow keys as well to start selecting different things. And bottom line is, as we start getting into a lot of deep menus, some people continue to use Tab and their arrow keys to navigate around. I'm not going to lie. This is where sometimes I look and go, a lot easier just to use my mouse to do certain things and make edits, etc. So in that case, I don't think bad. All right, Control B, just to bold. So I'm on Sandy, and Control B, we need to know that. There'll be rows that I want to bold and subtitles I want to bold for gross profit, operating profit, net income. If I want to italicize, I might want to make my margins gross profit divided by sales. My margins italicized so they pop out. Control I. If I want to underline something, of course, very simple then, Control U. And if I want to undo what I just did, Control Z. So if I were to delete Kieran and I want to redo it, or bring it back, I should say, Control Z. If I want to undo what I just did, Control Y. So Control Z undoes something, Control Y brings it back, undoes what you just previously did. So back over here, if I come to delete each of the names below one by one. So I'll delete Curly, Larry, and Mo. And then I'm going to Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. And then I can redo the deletions, Control Y, Control Y, Control Y. So again, really, really useful. I get doing something in Excel, and I've been modeling for 5 minutes and realize, uh-oh, this is not what I want. I'll start to Control Z, Control Z, Control Z to get to the point where I want to be. All right, one more thing. If I want to open a new workbook in Excel, I can Control N and open a new workbook. And if I want to toggle between two open workbooks, most people will tell me Alt. Alt is for everything that I've got open, Alt Tab. But between two workbooks, Control Tab. Control Tab lets me toggle between my open Excel workbooks. That's actually really, really powerful, very helpful, because frequently I've got lots of other things open and I don't want to be Alt tabbing and scrolling through everything. I just want to navigate and go back and forth between my Excel workbooks.
What was that shortcut again?
So Control Tab. Control Tab lets me go back and forth between open Excel workbooks. Alt Tab is for everything. But we like Control Tab just when we're Excel. Does that help, sir?
It's nice.
All right.
Can you
All right,
do that
thank
on Mac?
You could do most things on Macs. I couldn't. I do apologize. I can't tell you the shortcut for that particular one. One way or another, you can. The problem is, I would say to people, I wouldn't spend a ton of time learning my Mac shortcuts, because for most Macs, depending on, I guess, Mac shortcuts change depending on the type of Mac you're looking at and using. I've run training at universities where people are sitting there and there's 5 or 6 different types of Macs sitting there, and we've got to do different shortcuts for different things. Plus, my personal opinion is, moving forward, you're going to be squarely in PC land. So don't stress out too much about the Mac shortcuts, if that makes sense. That's my thought. All right, I'm going to get out of this workbook, Control W. I'm going to don't save, all right? And I'm going to open my next file. We just did Excel Basics 1, and I'm going to actually jump in to Template 1. Excel Basics 2 is going to review through key formulas and copy pasting, well, we're going to do that in our Model 1. So my Excel Basics 2, I'm going to leave that for you guys to go through yourself as additional homework. Let's jump into our Excel template 1. All right. I'm going to control page down to the introduction worksheet. And we're going to do some playing around here. And for starters here, I'm going to arrow key down to Jacob. If I want to jump from Jacob to Emily, yep, now we know we can use Shift, right arrow over, and select everything, or I can use Control to jump from Jacob to Emily. So Shift would let me select everything, but Control is going to let me jump. I'm going to jump down to Olivia, up to Noah, up to Jacob. So remember, our Shift lets us select, our Control lets us navigate and jump from different sections. I'm going to Control, arrow down, and wait a minute, it jumps me all the way down to the bottom of the spreadsheet, and I can Control, arrow up again to 200, the last part where I had data. Remember we said we like our navigation column, the little thin column A. If I type in assumptions, and I can page down, I can type in income statement. I can, oops, I need to spell that correctly, statement. And I can page down, for example, as much as I want. Balance sheet. All right. This might seem like, oh my goodness, this is going to be difficult to navigate through. And it would be, but we've got the Control key. So Control, arrow up, arrow up, arrow up. And again, I'm able to jump from different sections of my model using the Control and arrow key. Couple more things here. Next, I'm going to type in a 1. Choose anywhere you want. There's my 1. And I'm going to say equals 1 plus 1. Quick and easy formula. Now, we're going to copy down. Shift, arrow key down, Control D. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, here, this is fine. All my data, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are all formulas. What if we want to make these values? I can Shift, Control, and select the down arrow key. And I can select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. And these are formulas, but I want to make them hard-coded numbers. So now we know we're going to Control C, get those dancing ants, and I'm going to do a paste special, Alt, H, V, S, and we're going to paste values, for example. And here I go, and enter. Now, what was a bunch of formulas is now a bunch of values, just hard-coded numbers. I'm going to select these again, Shift, Control, arrow down. I'm going to Control C. And I'm just trying to get you to understand and see the power of paste special. This data is vertical. What if I suddenly want to put all my data horizontally? No problem. Choose where I want my data to be, and Alt, H, V, S. Here I go. It says transpose. So E is what we're going to choose for transpose, and enter. And there I go. I've converted my data from being vertical to horizontal. Now, with just 7 numbers, no big deal. But when you're dealing with large data sets, you know, a large column of data, and I want to start changing the way I'm presenting, this gets really important, is really helpful, really useful.
Hey, Matthew.
Also,
so how did you like enter 1 and then go down to 2 and then continue the pattern again?
Yep. So initially I typed in 1, and then I said equals 1 plus, and I typed in another 1 and enter. So I had a formula. And then I went Shift, arrow key down, Control D. And so when I copied down, that formula went down with me. 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, 4 plus 1, 5 plus 1, 6 plus 1.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I missed the control D part, so appreciate that.
Oh, apologies. No, absolutely. And all I wanted you to do is see, hey, I could convert that and be in good shape. Are you? What's your name, sir? Who was
My
that?
name is Santiago.
Yep. Santiago, are you feeling wild and crazy?
Sure, why not?
Yes, of course. Come on, you've got to feel wild and crazy. All right, I'm going to type in a number, a bunch of zeros, right? And I'll look at this and say equals, and I'll arrow key up, and I'll say plus, and I'll type in 10,000. And I'm going to copy down a bit. Now, okay, I've got a bunch of formulas. I'm going to turn these into, with me so far, Santiago? Talk to me, Santiago.
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry. I'm not sure if you could hear me, but yes, I'm ready.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to select this all, and we're going to do a paste special. Control C, Alt HVS, and the paste special, we're going to paste the values. We're just turning these into values. So no more formulas, all hard-coded numbers. And let's say I get my numbers from my client, and they're all like this, right? Actual numbers, right? My first number over here is 1 billion. And you come to me and you're like, Matthew, we don't need to be working with the numbers this way, right? Shave 1,000 off. Basically shave 3 decimals off every number. Are you with me, Santiago?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Okay. You've told me the directive is I need to shave 3 decimals off numbers. I'm going to Control C. I'm going to hard code 1,000. Control C on it. I'm going to select my data set, and we're going to do a paste special. Alt HVS. What am I going to select, Santiago?
Let's see. Hold up. Sorry, I gotta expand my screen a little bit. Oh, divide.
Yep, I'm just trying to be helpful. Yeah, absolutely, right? You've told me I need to shave off 1,000, so I'll hit the I for divide, enter, boom, and check it out. It literally just cut 3 digits off each number. If there were other decimals after, like 521 or something, it would put a point in and still give me the 521. I wouldn't lose anything. Here, all I had was zeros, so we just get 0.0, call it a day. But if it was 0.011, we'd still have the 11. And you might think, is he out of his mind? No. Actually, I maybe am out of my mind. That's a different question. But this is really helpful to know. As a junior analyst, I would use this all the time. Getting data from clients and wanting to format it and shave it. All right, I'm going to control page down, my key functions. All right, we need to know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, do growth formulas. So we need to review through this. If I want to add the 10 and the 20, there's a few things I can do. Equals 10 plus 20. Okay, that's straightforward. I need to know how to do that, okay? But I can also say equals the sum SU, and as I start to see it pop up, I can arrow down, hit tab, arrow up to the 10, shift arrow down, close parentheses, enter. And I can shift right arrow key over, and right, I won't get there yet, but my point is, there we go, I've summed. Santiago, any idea what my quick shortcut is just to add?
No, sorry, no.
All right, this is gonna change your world. Are you on a PC or a Mac?
I'm personally.
You said you're on a PC?
I wish I had a PC.
Okay. For a PC, if your PC, Alt equals and enter, adds really quickly for you. If you're a Mac user, Command Shift T. Yes, modeling with a Mac is like modeling with a banana. I get it. But nonetheless, Command Shift T. Alt equals for my PCs. But we can still do everything we need to do. Once I've written that formula, right, here I go. The best modelers write the fewest formulas. So all I'm going to do is shift, arrow key over, and copyright, Control R. I don't have to write this formula over and over and over. I'm going to go down to the 10 and 25. Alt equals, enter, shift, arrow key over, Control R. All right. The addition here.
Can you redo the alt equals? I don't think it's working for me, and I have a PC.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. You're going to hit Alt, right, and hold the Alt key. Alt, hold the Alt key, and hit equals. Oops, excuse me. Alt equals. So, Alt equals. There you go. Is it working for you?
No, like, did you
Might
write
have
the formula beforehand?
buttons. You might have to press both those buttons at the same time. I think that's
Yeah,
what
oh
we're.
no, same time. Hold the Alt key, right? Alt and then equals. At the
Gotcha, it
same
just
time.
worked. Yep, appreciate it.
Sorry. Apologies, and thank you for clarifying. That's huge if I would be failing you miserably if we missed that one today. But the good news is you just do it once, then shift, arrow key over, Control R. All right.
Matthew,
What's really, yep.
how do you get the formula to be written down on, like, next to the numbers?
Don't you worry about that. Don't you worry about that. I'm a nerd, right? So when I teach, I like to show formulas. So I went at home on a Saturday night and said, I'm going to write a macro. So when I teach, I hit a button and the formula pops up. So it's something I use for teaching. You wouldn't need it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, all right. Now check it out. I'm in cell H13. If I hit Alt equals, Excel will not only add vertically, but it'll add horizontally. And I'll hit enter. If I want to copy this formula down, I'm going to Control C. Get my dancing ants. I'm going to arrow key down. Now, here I go. This is where my usage case is for Control V. Control V, I'll arrow down. Control V, I'll arrow down. Control V, and escape.
Wait,
All
sorry,
right.
Matthew, how did you get it to automatically add horizontally again? What did you press?
Yep. Alt and equals. It'll add vertically, it'll add horizontally. Did it work for you?
I'm trying to figure it out on the Mac. Obviously, not as great as, or sorry, yeah, on the Mac, not as great as a PC. I feel like
Nope.
I'm modeling with a banana, as you said.
Yep. On the Mac, Command Shift T.
When you pasted, did you only paste the formula?
Yep. I just went Control C and arrow down, Control V, right? And Control V. I didn't have to do any paste specials because I wanted the formula, the format, everything. But no paste special needed. All right. I'm going to come down the 10, the 20, and the 15 here. My 20 and 15 equals the 20 minus 15 and enter. Now, those of you, when you hit enter, did any of you, when you hit enter, did your cursor go down?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, confess. Yeah, your cursor went down. All right, so the problem is when it goes down, right, then I've got to go back up. And frequently when it goes down, I move on to other things. I don't even start checking formulas. Actually, let's take a quick look at something. I'm going to hit Alt. I'm going to hit F and T. Alt, F, T for options. I'm going to arrow key down to where it says Advanced. And do you see where it says after pressing Enter, move selection? I keep this unclicked. This way, anytime I hit Enter, my cursor stays put, and I'm not continually arrow keying back up, arrow keying back up. If you hit OK, it'll always be like this all the time. Now, for my Mac users, you're going to go Excel, Excel Preferences. I need a Mac user to help guide me through.
Yeah, I see General, View,
Do you
ribbon
see
and
Excel,
toolbar.
Excel Preferences?
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, and then what do you see?
General, View, ribbon and toolbar, Edit, autocorrect, chart.
Go to Edit. Go to Edit.
Yeah.
And do you see something equivalent of after pressing Enter, move selection? There should be something like this.
Yeah, it's like the.
Perfect. What's it called, sir?
What's that?
What's the exact thing that it says, just so everyone finds it?
Oh yeah. It says the same thing. 7th one exactly.
Okay, perfect. Exactly. Okay, so my Mac users, Excel, Excel Preferences, and Edit, and then you'll find this. So I keep this unclicked. My PC users, Alt, F for File, T for Options, arrow key down to Advanced, and then you can make that selection. All right, so this way, when I do my subtraction equals 20 minus 15, I hit Enter, my cursor stays put, and I can Shift, arrow key over, Control R. I can do it one more time, equals 10 minus 20, Enter, Shift, arrow key over, Control R. All right, multiplication equals the 10 times the 20. Shift, arrow key over, Control R. And one more time here. 5 times 50, Enter. Shift, arrow key over, Control R. It becomes a lot easier when you hit Enter and that cursor stays put. Then all you have to do is Shift, arrow key over, and Control R. Remember, the best modelers write the fewest formulas. And if you're new to Excel, don't worry about speed. Focus on accuracy. Speed will come over time. All right, I'm going to page up. We need to tackle our division. Equals the 30 divided by 3. Enter. Shift, arrow key over, Control R. Equals the 60 divided by -3. Enter, Shift, arrow key over, Control R. All right. We also need to know how to grow different numbers. Obviously, of course, big picture, as we get into forecasting, we're going to grow revenue. So my growth formula, I want to grow 10 at 2% equals 10 times parentheses 1 plus the 2%, close parentheses and enter. Shift, arrow key over, Control R.
Can you do that one more time, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Here I go. Equals 10 times parentheses 1 plus arrow key up to the 2%, close parentheses. Does that help, sir?
So it's parentheses 1 plus the 2%?
Yep.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And yep, and then shift arrow key over, control R. You've written a formula that's dynamic. As you copy it over, it's moving over and it's grabbed and it's growing different numbers at different percentages. We're going to write it one more time. Equals 5 times parentheses 1 plus 3%, close parentheses, shift arrow key over, control R. All right. We also need to know how to calculate growth rates. I'm going to look at what sales has grown historically so I can think about what the proper growth rate will be for the future. I'm in O22 equals the 120 divided by the 100 and minus 1, enter. I'll arrow over, control R. And notice, no parentheses.
Can you do that one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. The key here is Excel knows order of operations. Here we go. I'm in O22 equals 120 divided by 100. All right? And minus 1. Enter. If I didn't have the minus 1 there, it would be 120%. Well, we need to subtract the minus 1 because the growth rate here is actually 20%. All right?
How did you get it to automatically format to percents?
In this case, my cells are pre-populated to format, but I would control 1, and I can, once I go into format cells, I can choose percentage or choose to format it any way that I want, for example. I'm going to arrow over and control R. Next, we're going to look at growing sales. But when we start to think about costs, these are a function of the sales. I can't forecast costs independent of sales. As sales go up or down, costs go up or down. We're matching our revenues and expenses. This is our matching principle in action. So equals my sales in N25 times the percentage, enter, shift, arrow key over, control R. And my 100 times the 65% and shift arrow key over, control R. So as sales go up or down, our costs move up or down as well. They're getting matched together. Questions so far, ladies and gentlemen? All right. We're about an hour in, so thank you for your time so far. We're having fun, hopefully.
I have a quick question, Matthew.
Yep, hit me, sir.
Whenever you're, for example, now that this is something that you taught us before, like I think on the last like template. How did you do again for putting the values or the formulas to the right in the whole, like, because I try to click like shift and select all the answers, for example, on those ones that is COGS, that you have that 30.0 there. I noticed that you like chose the two boxes to the right, and then you click.
Yep. So choose the 30 with me. Shift arrow key over 2. You with me?
Yes.
Control R. Same thing again, equals the 100
Yep, there we go.
times the 65%, enter, shift, arrow key over, Control R, boom. Really, really important.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys so much. Okay, if you're with me, we've got two types of models we're going to look at. These are like mini-me models, but nonetheless, lots we can learn from this. Our first mini-me model is a tower model. Control page down to income statement 1. Tower model means everything is built in a tower. So assumptions, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, it's all stacked. I guess the other terminology is a stacked model. As compared to my next model is a matrix model. A matrix model says we're going to take different parts of the model and put it on a different page. Assumptions, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, they'll all be on separate workbook pages. And you are going to encounter both kinds of models. In fact, you will work with people that prefer one over the other. I don't want you to prefer one over the other. I want you to be indifferent. I want you to be so comfortable using these, it's just really kind of no big deal. So we'll do both in our time together. Control page up for starters to the income statement 1. We're going to build our mini income statement 1. We've got some simple assumptions that we're going to use to build out the future, but for the moment, in column E is 2015A, actual. So these are actual numbers, and this is why sales and COGS are formatted with blue font. Blue font indicates these are hard-coded numbers, not dynamic. Black font in Excel indicates a formula. So my sales minus cost of goods sold is gross profit. My gross profit divided by sales, gross margin. My gross profit minus SG&A. Here's my operating profit. And my operating profit divided by sales is the operating margin. All right. Taxes. All right. And net income, operating profit minus taxes. Notice here, we don't have any interest income, interest expense for the moment. All we have is taxes. And anytime I say margin, it's profit divided by sales. So a net margin, net income divided by my sales. So take a moment, get your historicals together, and then we'll go from there. All right. I'm going to arrow key up, and here we go. We're going to build out our projections. Now, as we build, please stay with me. We're going to build one column at a time. We're going to make sure that one column is correct, then we're going to copy over. So here we go. Equals my sales last year times parentheses 1 plus, and I'm going to arrow key up to the 3%, close parentheses. My cost of goods sold equals my percentage in F7, 55%, times sales. My gross profit, Control R. My gross margin, Control R. We're copying those formulas right. SG&A equals, I'll arrow key up. I've got a percentage, 20%, times sales. Control R for the gross margin for the operating profit and the operating margin. Last but not least then, taxes equals, I'll arrow key up, my tax rate, 35% in F9 times operating profit. And Control R and Control R. Now, notice I've built just the first column. Always just build the first column. Make sure you're correct, then copy it out. Never copy it out until you know what you're copying is correct. Otherwise, you're just copying mistakes out into the future. No good can come of that. I'm going to start at my sales, shift, arrow down to the net margin, right arrow over, boom, Control R. And I'll put my formulas up so you can take a look. When I hit enter, my cursor doesn't move. I check the formula before I move on. I build just my first column, column F, check it, then I copy it over. After I've copied it over, I still check, but since I've already done some detailed checking, I'm focused much more on sanity checking. So I'm looking at my gross margin, operating margin, net margin, and I'm saying, do these numbers make sense? I don't see any large swings up, large swings down in the numbers. They're steady, so this reassures me that I'm in good shape. If I saw hockey sticks, the numbers drop to 0, go really high, go really low, likely I've got a mislink. Questions on income statement 1?
I got a quick question. For the
Yes,
SG&A expense on row 2, or sorry, the 2016 year, how did you get that again? And then
all right, all you had to do is get the first one. Did you get the 206?
No,
Right
no,
here,
I
this
did not get the 206. That's what I was wondering how you got that.
Okay, you can't do anything until you get column F. It's all about column F. So you've got to finish column F, and as soon as column F is done, then we can copy over. So my SG&A is a percentage of sales. And it literally says, my assumption, SG&A percent of sales. So 20% times the sales. You with me, sir?
Yes.
All right. Let me know when you're good through net income and net margin. Are you good? And if not, take a minute more.
I have a question. Are we always going to be using the percentage of sales method?
For sales, we're going to grow it. In general, on cost of goods sold, on SG&A, yeah, a percentage of sales. As sales go up or down, those costs go up or down. To model out in more granularity, we'll actually have to be working with the client. And the client will have to give us a breakdown of the different categories and let us know if there are different drivers. But in general, this is a very acceptable, good method for thinking about our costs in relationship to sales. It's that matching principle that we talked about in accounting coming to life.
I have a question regarding like the shortcuts. Let's say you're in cell F13 and you want to highlight that column full of data. Is there a way to highlight all of it in one stroke, like down to the net margin?
Yep, so here I am, shift, control, arrow down, but that gets me to gross margin because there's breaks in the data. Arrow down again, arrow down again, arrow down again. So I've got to kind of arrow down, but it's all right. So shift control will only do it once really quickly for you when there's no breaks in the data. But once we're good to go, once that's highlighted, I'll right arrow key over, and then I can copy right, and I'm good to go. So all you've got to be able to do is that first column, and then we'll use Control R to get the rest.
Does it matter if like I have the same formulas as you, but my numbers are slightly different?
Yes, it does matter. That means there's a mistake.
Because I'm like it's the same formula.
Match my numbers exactly. So
Okay.
take a look. Sales. Are you matching my sales, sir?
Yeah, I have your sales, but I have 550
Cost of
for
goods
my
sold.
cost of goods sold.
What do you have?
550.
No. Percent of that sales. 55% times sales. F and F. F7 times F13.
Oh, I had E. Okay, I got it.
Yep. Oh, matrix integrity violation. We'll talk about that in a minute, but match your columns, F and F. But who is this?
Justin?
Justin, thank you for asking, right? Because if you've got this question, someone else does too, and I really want everyone to feel comfortable with this, so you got to ask. I love it when you guys ask me questions, to be very honest with you. So, all right.
Oh, I have a
profit. Hit me, sir.
So how is it that you're able, you might have said it before, I might have missed it. How are you able to get your formulas to show up in the next column like that? Because when I copied it down and copied it over,
You won't. I've got a macro for that. Don't worry about that. I've got a macro for that. Yep. That's, if you come work for Pillars one day, I'll give you that macro. Till then, don't worry about it.
Okay.
As long as we all get to that net margin, 16.3%, I'm happy.
Yes,
and once you're with me,
I was able to get that, and then but when I shifted down, I copied it and shifted down, and then went over. I was not able to get the same numbers to, I guess, like you said, automatically pop up for each row. Is that because I didn't put in something correctly, even though I had the same numbers?
Nope. Did you start at the 1003 right here?
Yes.
Shift, arrow down like this, right arrow key over, and Control R. Everything should move with you. So the next year, what's your cost of goods sold?
Oh, okay. I see what I did. Okay. I tried to. I think I pressed Control C like to copy it and not just shift it down.
Yep. Shift all the way down. Select it all. Then select it all the way to the right. Control R.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we're going to look at our mini matrix model. In a matrix model, I've got my model bifurcated into different component parts. So assumptions one page, and I've got my income statement on another page. It's the exact same model, just broken into different parts. So we've got a link across the workbook pages. I'm going to control page down to income statement 2, and the first thing we're going to do is put together our historical 2015 column. Equals sales minus cost of goods sold. Here's my gross profit. Equals gross profit divided by sales. Here's my gross margin. Equals gross profit minus SG&A. There's my operating profit. My operating profit divided by sales, operating margin. Small pause here. And last but not least, operating profit minus taxes. My net income then divided by sales net margin. So get your historicals in. And then again, we're going to build just that first column. Once we build that first column, then we'll copy right. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, are you with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Now, I want to build a formula for sales. First things first, I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to link over to sales last year, times parentheses 1 plus, control page up to the assumptions, arrow key down, here's my 3%, close parentheses. Did everyone get 1,030 for projected sales?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
My formula here, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. My formula, the 10,030, that's my end result. That's what I want it to be. But my formula is actually wrong. If I sent you my model like this, I would expect you to, no. Send it back. Like, redo this, Matthew. You know better. I'm not going to take this garbage from you, right? And there's a reason why. If I hit F2, some of you, it might be function F2, you can see really quickly here that I grabbed last year's sales. That's in good shape. The issue is, did I grab the correct assumption? Right? That's the risk in the formula. So I've got a control page up. Go look. Where's that sales growth? F6. Okay. Did I get it? Control page down. That is painful. That is painful. And the reason here that my formula is wrong from a technical perspective and the way of best practices for building is because when I'm in Excel, I want to use what's called control left bracket. The left bracket that's a square, control left bracket, look what it does when I do this. It takes me over to the first cell reference in my workbook page, and F5 and enter takes me back. So control left bracket is really, really powerful. I need everyone to be able to find their control left bracket key, or their left bracket, and use control left bracket. To jump over to the 1,000, F5 and enter. Some of you, it might be function F5 and then enter. So let me know if you're having any issues.
What
Right.
does that
Now,
what does that do?
well, do you see how E6 is my first cell reference? It's taking me to the first cell reference. Hit delete on your formula. What I want you to see is what if we wrote the formula in a more practical way? What if I said equals, parentheses, 1 plus, control page up to the assumptions, arrow key down, and I'll arrow over to the growth rate. So 1 plus by assumption in F6, close parentheses, times control page down, arrow key over to the 1,000. Now, I'm linking off workbook page first. I'm linking to the assumption. That's my first reference in the formula. Are you with me, sir?
Yeah.
Control left bracket. Where does it take me?
Got it.
Oh yeah, it took me to that first cell reference. F5, enter, boom, I'm back. You could see where I would expect you to say, no, I don't want the model. What if it was a really large model and I'm looking across multiple workbook pages? You'd be like, hey, link it up so you're linking to your assumptions first all the time. Then if you want to check, you can control left bracket, and you can really, really quickly check and figure things out. All right, my cost of goods sold equals control page up.
Before going,
Yep.
Before going, I don't know if this is just a MacBook thing, but when you're trying to get another cell from a different tab inside the worksheet, like once you're using the arrow keys, like it appears like something appears above the cell. You know what I mean?
Part of the formula?
Like, yeah, the formula that you're already writing appears above the cell, so it doesn't let you look what number you're selecting. Like, is there a way to
Excel preferences?
Yeah.
Edit. Are you there?
Yes.
My PC uses Alt, FT, arrow down to advanced. All right. you're looking where it says allow editing directly in cells. You want to unclick that.
Okay. Edit.
So
Yeah.
unclick it. So for me, I keep mine unclicked. I like my formulas up in the formula bar. If I want to get up to the formula bar, I'll hit F2. If I want to go back in to the worksheet, I'll hit F2. If you're a Mac user, Excel preferences, edit, and look for this, allow editing directly in cells, and unclick it.
It's the first one on Mac. It doesn't say the allow, but it's the same thing.
Did it solve the problem?
Let me check. Yeah.
Is it possible after you? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't appear now.
All right. Yay. Perfect. Other questions? Someone else had a
Yeah,
question?
may you retype the formula for the first like when you calculated the sales again?
Yeah, let's do it again. Are you ready, sir?
Yep.
Equals parentheses 1 plus control page up to the assumptions, arrow key down to the sales growth, and grab your sales growth assumption F6. Close
Okay.
parentheses. With me, sir?
Oh no, yeah, yep.
All right, times control page down to the income statement, arrow over and grab last year's sales, and enter.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
Yeah, of course. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's
Matthew, excuse me.
Yep.
I'm doing exactly what you just did, and it's giving me like an error. Like I have exactly what you just typed in, and it gives me 0.0. Like it says something.
I might disagree. But that's okay. We're gonna get it figured out.
Okay.
All right.
Let me type it again. Wait.
Yep, we're gonna do it together. Equals parentheses 1 plus control page up to the assumptions, arrow down to the 3%, F6, right? Close parentheses. Just give me that part. So far? Tell me when you're good.
Yes.
Times control page down. Now, I need you to left arrow key over and pick up E6. I guarantee you are picking up F6. So you want E6. Does it say income statement E6 there? Yeah?
Yes.
Enter.
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. Huh. Doing the exact same thing as me.
Thank you.
I don't think so. No. You were actually staying in cell F. And so in order to know how to calculate F, you need to know what was in F, but in order to know F, you need to know how to calculate. You were making a circular reference. We'll deal with that later on. All right. Next, cost of goods sold. We're going to link off workbook page. We're going to link to the assumptions first. Equals control page up, arrow key down. Here's my cost of goods sold. It's a percentage times control page down to income statement 2, arrow up, enter. Gross profit, control R. Gross margin,
Matthew,
control R. Yes, sir.
before we keep going, wouldn't we, when we like do the control R to the right, wouldn't that damage our already built formulas if we're not using the chain thing?
No damaging, right? You're saying for gross profit? I
Yeah.
have gross profit. Here I am, right? Control R. What does that do? It takes the formula here, which is sales minus cost of goods sold, and it brings it over here, sales minus cost of goods sold. With me?
Yeah.
Talk to me, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here I am. I've got gross profit, a gross margin here, right? I don't want to write a formula over and over and over.
No.
I'll make
Yeah,
a mistake.
I think for the
So-
ones up top that you have to cross them to the right. Which figure are you using for the projected numbers?
Everything is projected. Control R on projected sales. So I've got my sales. My cost of goods sold is a percentage of those sales. Control F bracket. Column F, here's a percentage, times column F, my sales.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The sales of that year. Sorry, I was taking the comps of the previous year. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Remember, matching principle from accounting. We're looking at our sales this year and the expenses that go with it. So it's going to be a percentage of those current year sales. With me, sir?
Yeah. My model was gonna be horrific if I continued doing what I was doing. Thank you.
Well, and here's the thing. We're in a matrix model, my friend, and we want to maintain what's called matrix integrity. As I'm building my column F here, everything is going to be F. The only time I'm ever referring to another column is when I'm building my projected sales. I refer to column E. But everything else, COGS is a percentage of sales. SG&A is a percentage of sales. Taxes are a percentage of the operating profit, and it's all in column F. Does that help?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. SG&A equals, control page up to the assumptions. I'm going to arrow key down. It's a percentage, F8 times, control page down, arrow key up to the sales. Operating profit, control R. Operating margin, control R. Small pause, I want to make sure we're together. Taxes equals, control page up, arrow key down. I've got an effective rate, F9 times, control page down, arrow key up to the operating profit. Net income, net margin, control R. How we doing?
I apologize for asking this again, but may you redo the formulas for the SG&A and the taxes again?
Yep. SG&A equals, control page up, arrow key down, row 8, it's a percentage, F8 times, control page down, arrow key up to the sales. So F8 times my sales in F6. Match those F's, F and F. Operating profit and operating margin, control R. The taxes, same thing. We're just going to do a multiplication formula. Equals, control page up, arrow key down to row 9, and we need the assumption in F9, and it's going to be times, control page down, arrow key up to the operating profit, and the operating profit in column F, F12, and control R for the net income and the net margin. How we doing? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're with me, I'm going to shift, arrow key down, right arrow key over, and here we go. Control R. All right, so the good news here is all you have to do is know how to build that first forecast year. Once you're good there, So I don't care how long it takes you. Take your time. We're in no rush. Once you're good on that first year, then you're going to copy out Control R. Any questions here, ladies and gentlemen? How we doing?
Matthew.
Yes,
Excuse me.
sir.
I'm having issues whenever I change to assumptions and then change back to income statement. Like it says something about round, and that I'm having like the same numbers, but I'm just like clicking on assumptions and trying to put the assumptions value on the income statement, and I don't know what to do about it.
Nope. So your assumption. Did you get the first sales number? Did you get sales in the first year?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Cost of goods sold. Did you get this?
No.
Okay. What's your formula say? What's your formula say? Are you linking to the assumption F7?
Yes, I put out the assumptions, but when I change to income statement, it says income statement instead of assumptions. Like where assumptions is supposed to be set, it says income statement.
So equals, control page up to the assumptions, arrow key down, here's my assumption, F7. Now hit times. Shift and the 8 key to give me that times. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now control page down to the income statement and arrow key up to the sales. You need that times as the demarcation between the assumption and the sales. So the assumption times and then arrow key up to the sales. It'll say income statement 2 H6, but there's your sales. And
yes,
enter.
Now it works. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Gross profit, gross margin, control R, SG&A. Let's do this one together. You with me? Equals, control page up, arrow key down, row 8. We need a percent, F8, times, control page down, arrow key up to the sales. All right. Are you in good shape, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got one more file that I want to do with you still. So let's get out of this file, Control W. It's going to say, do I want to save? No, no, no. If you're new to this, you must practice. You must. And I cannot emphasize enough to you that practicing right here, right now is just going to pay off so much. It's not even funny, the dividends you're going to get here from doing this. So, all right, now, what do we want to do next? I want to hunt down PWS Intro Financial Modeling 2 template. We're going to build a mini model, mini income statement, mini balance sheet, mini cash flow. Nothing, overly complicated, but still it's a little mini model. Notice we've got on the assumptions page, assumptions for the income statement and balance sheet. No cash flow statement assumptions, of course. Once I have an income statement and a balance sheet, I'll build my cash flow statement. A cash flow is just a reconciliation of two balance sheet columns applying the rules of cash you talked through in the accounting webinar. There's an inverse relationship between assets and cash. There's a direct relationship between liabilities and equity and cash. These rules of cash adjust from accrual to cash basis accounting. So we've got income statement assumptions, balance sheet assumptions. We're going to start on our income statement. Same pretty much exact type of income statement we just built. Then we'll build a balance sheet. Then we'll link up a cash flow. So let's start on the historicals. I'm in my gross profit, D8. Everyone with me, or do you need me to pause a moment?
May you pause just for a quick second? I'm downloading the file right now.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
All good to go. Thank you.
All right. So let's start off with our gross profit historically. Sales minus gross profit. Sales minus cost of goods sold, excuse me, gives us the gross profit. Gross margin is the gross profit divided by sales. Gross profit minus SG&A gives me the operating profit. And operating profit divided by sales. Here we go. Operating margin. Operating profit minus taxes to get to net income. And net income divided by sales. Net margin. All right. Here we go. We're going to build our first forecast year. If you're with me, I'm in E6 equals parentheses 1 plus, control page up to the assumptions, arrow key down, grab that sales growth rate, E6, close parentheses, times, control page down, arrow over, left arrow over to D6, enter. Once more, we've got our sales. I can check to make sure I've got the right assumption. Control, left bracket. All right. F5, enter. My cost of goods sold equals, control page up, arrow key down. Here's my percentage, E7, times, control page down, arrow key up to the sales. All right, notice the matrix integrity. My percentage times sales, so E7, E6. Gross profit, gross margin, control R. SG&A equals control page up, arrow key down, row 8, it's a percentage, E8, times, control page down, arrow key up to the sales. Assumption E8 times, income statement E6, the sales, E and E. Control R on the operating profit and operating margin. Taxes.
Quick question.
Yep.
So you see how for sales you used 1 plus the assumption. So when it comes to
Yep.
SG&A, how come you're not using the parentheses and the 1?
All right. Yep. My assumptions for sales are a growth formula.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm growing sales. And when you think about it, that makes sense. I'm hopefully want to increase sales every year. I could decrease and have a negative number there as well, but we're growing.
Okay.
And my expenses are a percentage of. So if you take a look, my assumption here says cost of goods sold, percentage of sales. SG&A, percentage of sales. So I'm multiplying.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no. Great question. I don't want you just kind of memorizing, following along. I want you to understand the intuition. The idea is I'm trying to grow my sales, increase sales every year, but I've got to match my expenses with these sales. So these expenses are a percentage of the sales. COGS, a percentage of sales. SG&A, a percent times the sales. Great questions, ladies and gentlemen. Taxes equals control page up, arrow key down, my effective rate times, control page down, arrow key up to the operating profit. And that makes sense. Here's my profit times the tax percentage to get to the taxes. Net income, net margin, control R. Take a minute, get your first forecast year together. And then we're going to head to the top, shift, arrow key down through the net margin, right arrow key over, and control R. And we've got our mini income statement here together.
That only
Small pause.
sorry.
Yep.
That only works for
Don't
you.
hit me. What only works for you? Copying over?
Like, yeah, for you because of your little mods you have.
No. The formulas are only work for me. But once you get this done, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying if I start in E6, shift arrow key down, right arrow key over, that works for all of us. Control R, boom. Right? That works for you, sir, correct?
Yep, just did it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. What? I'm special, ha ha ha. Because I've got my macro. This way, as we're going along, you can see my formulas. I think it's helpful for teaching here.
Not gonna
But
lie,
nope.
I want that macro.
You want that macro. Once you've had your huge successful career in banking, then you can call me up and say, no, I'm ready to come work for Pillars. And I'll be like, absolutely, let's do it. The macro is proprietary. All right. Anyway, okay, we've got our income statement. Next, control page down. We're going to put together a mini balance sheet and then a mini cash flow. I'm going to see how everything links together. So, our total current assets, alt equals, and enter. My Mac users, Command Shift T. My total assets, current plus the long term, D9 plus D11. Total current liabilities, alt equals. My total liabilities, current plus the sum, parentheses, of the long term and the other long term liabilities, D18 through D19, close parentheses. My total equity, alt equals. My balance sheet check, I should say my total liabilities plus total equity gives me my total liabilities and equity. And my balance sheet check, well, my balance sheet should always balance. So my total liabilities and equity minus my total assets. Small pause, just want to make sure we're all on the same page. All right.
I'm like,
Once we've got to
5
that,
seconds behind you.
then I'll count to 5 and we'll be good to go. Let me know if you need my help.
Okay.
Yep, small pause.
Hey, Matt.
Yep. Yep, I'm here. Hello.
So like, let's say that you're hovering over a cell. Sorry, I might have gone out there for a little bit, but let's say that you're hovering over a cell and you forgot to input like a certain cell. How do you edit it without like clicking, like without using your trackpad to add an additional value?
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Let's say here I am. I'm in my total current assets, right? You there with me? I'm in
Yep.
D9. I'm going to hit F2.
Yep.
Aha. F2 gets me into that formula. I'm going to say plus, I'm just making something up. And if I want to get back into the worksheet to start adding to something, I'll hit F2 again. And then I'm back in my worksheet. So F2 gets you into the formula bar. F2 gets you back into the worksheet.
Okay, gotcha.
Does that help?
Yeah, I guess I was trying to figure it out once again, just like for the Mac version, but I guess that really won't do me any good in the future, so it's all good. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Honestly, like, trying to think of an activity that's not productive. I was going to say eating chocolate chip ice cream, but that's actually fun. It's not productive, but it's fun. So that's different. But anyway, don't worry too much, right? You're going to learn this all for PCs. All right, we need to build out our balance sheet. I'm going to skip cash. Cash is going to come from the cash flow statement. Remember our key links. My net income on the income statement, that's an accrual accounting number. Revenues earned, expenses incurred, tells me nothing about cash. My net income is going to start the cash flow. I'm going to reconcile, come up with my operating, investing, and financing activities and get my ending cash. And my ending cash on the cash flow statement is going to tie into my balance sheet. So we're going to leave cash blank right now. My receivables, this is going to be a percentage of sales, equals control page up to the assumptions. I'll arrow key down. Here's my accounts receivable, a percent, E12 times, control page down. Here's my sales. Oops. And my other current assets equals control page up, arrow key down to row 13. It's a percentage, E13, times, and it says times sales, so control page down to the income statement. And here we go, sales in year one. E and E, my assumption E13, sales E6, enter. My total current assets, control R, copy that formula. Make sure you've got cash included in the formula.
Matthew.
Yep.
So this is where I think it came my confusing from earlier. Couldn't you chain the revenue from that year and just copy down the formula that you have in E7?
You might be able to do that if you knew every assumption was always based on sales. Some might suddenly be on cost of goods sold. So right here, right now, you're best just to link up each one. So my accounts receivable, a percentage of sales. The other current assets, a percentage of sales. Because as we get to inventory, that's going to be based off of cost of goods sold. So you won't be in a situation where you could copy down.
Okay, I see.
I'm very selective about locking cells. In general, locking will create you more mistakes than not. I do lock cells, don't get me wrong. But when I do it, I'm very strategic about it. And a lot of times in a general model like this, linking up assumptions, the assumptions are changing all the time. Some are held constant, some are percentage of sales, some are percentage of cost of goods sold. So trying to write one formula to do it all will create more problems. Long-term assets equals control page up to the assumptions. I'll arrow key down, row 14. It's a percent times my sales in that first year. And E14, E6. My total assets, control R. Accounts payable equals control page up to the assumptions, arrow key down, row 15, and E15. Now it's a percent of cost of goods sold on the income statement. So we're changing it up. E15 times control page down to the income statement. And here we go, E7. Other current liabilities, again, equals control page up. I'll arrow key down. I'm doing it on a percentage of cost of goods sold, so E16. I do see people do this percentage of sales as well. So link up each one individually. We're only linking one column. E16 times control page down to the income statement, cost of goods sold here, E7. My total current liabilities, control R. All right. Long-term debt equals control page up to the assumptions. We're going to arrow key down. And here we go. It's just an amount they give us. We're linking to the 300. All right, that's fine. It was 350 before, now it's 300. We've paid down some debt. Other current liabilities equals control page up. I'll arrow key down, row 18. And again, just an amount. We're holding it constant, E18. My total liabilities, control R. Common stock equals control page up to the assumptions. I'll arrow key down row 19, and here we go. Just the amount, 75, hold it constant. Last but not least, retained earnings. And you talked about this in accounting. Retained earnings grows every year by the amount of net income, and it decreases by the dividends that are declared and paid out. Well, hey, we're not forecasting dividends, so our retained earnings is just going to grow every year by the net income. All that net income is going to tie in and feed into the retained earnings and accumulate. My retained earnings then equals control page up. I'm going to link off workbook page first. My projected net income in E16 plus control page down to the balance sheet, arrow key to the left and pick up D23, last year's retained earnings. So my retained earnings in the prior year grows every year in the projected by the projected net income. Last but not least, my total equity, liabilities and equity, my balance sheet check, all these, control R. All right.
Could you go over that retained earnings one more time? Did you see that?
No, go back.
Yep. For your retained earnings, beginning, addition, subtraction, ending. Your retained earnings, my beginning retained earnings is last year. Retained earnings goes up by the projected net income. It goes down by the dividends, and we get to ending retained earnings. I'm not projecting any dividends. These are zero. I know what my net income is on a projected basis, and I know my beginning retained earnings. So all that's happening here is I'm linking to my projected net income and adding my projected net income to last year's retained earnings. Last year's retained earnings is the beginning plus the projected net income. Dividends are zero, so last year's retained earnings plus projected net income gives me the new retained earnings. We're just accumulating all those earnings and keeping them in the business rather than paying out anything to shareholders. Does that help, sir?
Yep. I just forgot that beginning plus additions, subtractions is to the ending formula, and I just wasn't recognizing that's where it came from.
Yep. Yep, perfect. All right, if you're with me, I'm going to shift, arrow key down, starting with the receivables, do the balance sheet check, right arrow key over, and Control R. I'm going to copy these down, and here are my balance sheet checks. This is what we're off by every year. You know the key links. You know that the ending cash on the cash flow statement is going to tie in to my balance sheet. So these balance sheet check numbers, this is the cash. This is the ending cash that I expect to get on my cash flow each year. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you got to match my balance sheet checks.
Hey Matthew, I have the rest of the balance sheet, and I didn't even realize that there was a bar at the bottom called balance sheet check. What was the formula for that?
All right. Total liabilities and equity minus total assets. So E26 minus E12. Yep.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know we're at the top of the hour, but I want to give you all I got here, right? So if somehow you have other commitments and you have to log off or something, I'm never offended. But I'm going to keep going. We're going to finish this model and finish our cash flow statement. And if you have to log off, well, you'll have the recording to work from. But we need to power through.
Do you know when the recording will be posted?
It gets uploaded 5 minutes after the webinar ends.
Yeah, exactly. It should be uploaded right after.
It's that quick? Wow, okay, because I was good. My answer was going to be on a timely basis.
For sure. It should be pretty soon after, but yeah, you guys can continue.
Yep, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. No, SEOs are always really timely about this. All right, so, and we don't need that much more time here, but I appreciate it. I just want to make sure we answer all your questions and get through the content here. Okay, so we have an income statement. We have a balance sheet. We need a cash flow statement. I've given you labels for today, and we're going to start with our bottom line profitability, net income. Let's do it. I'm in E6. So equals control page up to the income statement, and we're picking up our projected net income in E16. We're going to start with projected net income, and then we're going to reconcile to come up with cash. Net income is an accrual number. That's not cash. Accrual accounting recognizes revenues when earned, expenses when incurred. I could be a really, really profitable company and a very cash poor company. I've got a client from the Middle East in the UAE, great client, I love him, but I did the training in October and I'm still waiting to get paid. So we're profitable, right? Made good revenue, low expenses for that engagement, but cash poor. We've not collected the money yet. So my point is, a cash flow statement is going to help us reconcile and understand what's going on with cash. So let's start with the net income, and we're going to look at the change in our assets and liabilities, just like you did in accounting the other day, your intro to accounting. So equals control page up to the balance sheet. Here's my accounts receivable. When my receivable goes up, cash goes down. I'm going to model that D7 minus E7. There's my change, reflecting the fact that while I may have made additional revenue in that particular year, the increase in receivables recognizes the fact that, yep, I made incremental revenue, but I didn't collect it in cash. My other current assets, control left bracket, my other current assets are right below the receivables. To apply my rules of cash, there's an inverse relationship between assets and cash. I'm always going to say for an asset, last year minus this year. Well, my receivables, right, are last year minus this year, D7 minus E7. My other current assets are right below, so I'm going to copy down. Control D. And there we go. Last year minus this year. My other current assets are going up. cash is going down. My accounts payable equals control page up to the balance sheet. I'll arrow key down. And here I go. E14 minus D14. For assets, there's an inverse relationship. So last year minus this year. For liabilities and equity, it's always this year minus last year. So in this case, E minus D. My payables are going up. Cash is going up. Control left bracket. All right. Right below accounts payable are other current liabilities, so I can copy down. Control D. My other long-term liabilities equals control page up, arrow key down, and here I go. E19 minus D19. It's a liability, so this year minus last year. All right. My operating cash flow then, Alt equals, added up. Command Shift T for the Mac users. Take a minute, make sure we've got the same operating cash flow. All right. Next, my change in other long-term assets equals control page up. I'll arrow key down. It's an asset. So row 11, assets, there's an inverse relationship. Last year minus this year. Here we go. D11 minus E11. And Alt equals for the investing cash flow. Small pause. Questions, ladies and gentlemen, here.
I have 32, but it's not in the parentheses. So it's just, I guess it's showing
Okay.
an increase.
Yep, but it needs to be last year minus this year. D, it's an asset, so D minus E. You've got E minus D. Needs to be D minus E. Assets are always last year, previous year, minus the current year. Liabilities and equity will always be this year minus last year. These rules here, make sure you get the right parentheses and everything. Make sure that the number is going to be positive or negative. They apply what we call our rules of cash. If you model an asset last year minus this year, a liability this year minus last year, that's going to adjust and get us from accrual to cash basis. Does that help, sir?
Yes, it does. I have it correct now. Thank you.
Okay. My long-term debt, it's debt. So this year minus last year, when it's going up, cash is going up. When it's going down, cash is going down. We're going to model it equals control page up, arrow key down, row 18, E18 minus D18. Common stock.
Yo, what's up?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that I had my microphone on. Pardon me.
No, that's all right. It's all good by me. No. All right. Changing common stock equals control page up. Arrow key down, row 22. Again, it's equity. And just like a liability, this year minus last year. E minus D. E22 minus, here we go, D22. And my financing cash flows, Alt equals. All right. Our operating, investing, financing cash flow. Those are the three sections of the cash flow statement. Add them up, and that's going to give me my total cash flow equals operating plus investing plus financing and now we're going to reconcile. How does cash change during the year? It changes by, in this case, the net change in cash, 214.5. And what's the ending cash? I need to know my beginning, add the net change to get to the ending. Anyone need a pause? Anyone need a minute? I need to make sure we all have the same total cash flow, 214.5. Help me help you.
I'm right here with you. I'm 214.
Okay. All right, let's do it. I'm in D25 equals control page up to the balance sheet. Arrow key down. Here's my cash. Ending cash, D6. My ending becomes the beginning. My change in cash is that net change in cash. We just calculate total cash flow, 214.5. I'll link to E21 and I'll alt equals to get to the ending cash. My beginning cash plus my change gets me to the ending cash. Is that number correct, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, you gotta tell me, chime in.
Yes, that's the same number on the balance sheet that we have.
Boom, check out the brain on this guy. All right, absolutely. That's what these balance sheet checks are for. This should give us, if we're on the same page and we get everything right, this will give us, our cash flow is gonna match these balance sheet checks. Wonderful, wonderful, thank you, sir. I'm gonna head to the top. I'm going to copy this out, start with my net income, all the way down to the ending cash, right arrow key over to column I, control R. I'll put my formulas up. Yay. Here we go. Here's our ending cash. All right. Let me know if you're not matching.
I didn't match, but I found my mistake.
Okay, perfect. As long as you find your mistake, that's most important.
I didn't match.
We're good to
I
go
don't
then.
know what I did.
I'm sorry?
I didn't match, but I'm not sure what I did wrong.
Okay. Do you match my operating cash flow?
Yes.
Investing?
Mm-hmm.
Financing?
Yeah.
So, do you match total net cash flow in the first year, 214.5? Do you match all these numbers across the 5 years?
Yeah.
I made the same
All right.
mistake. It's the 100.
Okay. It's the 100. You've got to put the 100, D25. You've got to put the 100 in D25. The ending becomes the beginning. So link in that cash into D25 and then say equals the ending. Here's the net change in cash and then add it up. This way, as you copy over every year, the ending becomes the beginning, ending becomes the beginning, ending becomes the beginning. Does that help, sir?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
All right. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Let's do it. My cash equals control page down to the cash flow, arrow key down to the ending cash, and I'm just going to tie in and link in my cash. End of story. My model balances, my ending cash on the cash flow statement ties into the cash on my balance sheet. Questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Always satisfying to see the row of zeros in the check.
It is. But this is our mini-me model, ladies and gentlemen. Our next big boy, big girl model has to address some issues we have here. If you can give me one more minute, my income statement's good, but I don't have any financing costs. We're missing interest income on cash, interest expense on debt. We've got to have this in our model. I need a debt schedule, by the way, so I can have a proper bill down on debt. I don't have that. Also, on my cash flow, I'm just looking at the change in every balance sheet account and attributing everything to either operating, investing, or financing. You know that's not always the case. Retained earnings has net income, which is operating, dividends, which is financing. Property, plant, and equipment has two component parts. CapEx, which is investing, depreciation, which is operating. So the next model, we have to handle these complex accounts, these what we at Pillars call mixed accounts. We have to handle these on our cash flow statement. We have to handle them on the cash flow statement and the calcs page. All right, last but not least, if I change my assumptions, let's go wild and crazy. I'm going to change my cost of goods sold to 90%. And I copy that over. All right. On my income statement, I'm not profitable. On my balance sheet, well, I'm balancing, but wait a minute. Bum, bum, bum. Look at my cash. I'm going negative. I can't have negative cash. Negative cash essentially means I have to borrow. So our next model that we do will have a revolving credit facility, a revolver. If the company's short on cash, we'll draw on the revolver. That's debt, and we'll also have interest on it. So all of these are things we're going to address later on in the webinar series. Right here, right now, the point of today's session was to start getting you familiar with nuts and bolts Excel shortcuts. If you're new to all this, utilize the recording. Go back and work through Excel Basics 1. Do Excel Basics 2. Right? You can do that yourself. It's self-study material. Go back and build through Model 1, Model 2 here. And also, in the zip, we even gave you another practice file, the Model 2A. You've got template and solution here, and 2A is essentially another file similar to what we built with a simple income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. And so you can practice your formula constructions and practice linking the model together. All right, big picture, this is everything I wanted to get to today. Thank you for your time here. And if you've got questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me at the very long email below, mhollivis@pillarsofwallstreet.com. And thanks so much for your time today, and look forward to working with you in the future here.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, all of you as well. And thank you, SEO, so much for hosting me.